There we are. There we are. All right.
Hey.
Welcome. I'm Douglas from CompuMatter. This is a tech translated podcast, and we're here to make things easier to digest in the computer world. And if you have any questions, we have the chat open.
And my name is Auren. Like he said, we're here to help. If you have any questions about anything coming up here and going into the new year too, feel free to drop a comment down below, either in Facebook or YouTube, and we'll be able to see it live.
And happy holidays to everybody. It's a time where a lot of people are going to be getting new technology and new tech frustrations, and we'll be here for you if you get something new and you don't know how to use it or it's causing problems for you.
We do one-on-one appointments. We could either do remote too, depending on what you're working with.
If you have internet access, we can set up a remote support session and be able to help you with some new software or maybe problems with installing software that you're having or updating and upgrading components that are in your system.
Yeah. Well, speaking of upgrading components, we could talk about Windows 11, and a lot of people are getting new computers right now just to have an upgraded environment.
Yeah, so Windows 10 is going to lose support coming October of next year, so a lot of people might be considering upgrading their system or getting a system for a loved one. We'd like to add on top of that a lot of people have systems that are in Windows 10 that are compatible with Windows 11. So something you might consider is if you're upgrading yourself and you have a system that's able to update to 11, maybe taking it into a local repair shop in your area, or if you're in our area, you're certainly welcome to bring it down here and we can remove your data from it, make it like a new computer, and that's a gift that you could give to another family member that also reuses technology, and it's better for the environment that way.
Or even if you wanted to resell it, there's a lot of options to do that too, if you'd rather do that.
There's a lot of secondhand markets, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, those sort of things, to be able to sell off older equipment and recoup some of the money you lost during the holidays.
Yes.
Do you want to go into buying gifts online? Because I think a lot of people are doing that right now.
A lot of people really want to save money by going on places like Facebook Marketplace and eBay. Very understandable. I do the same thing. Sometimes there's also other websites online that may be less known that might have a really good deal. So I would always recommend, before you purchase anything or put your credit card details anywhere, first of all, make sure the place that you're going to look at this sale is a legitimate location. Check the URL on the top, which is just your website address on the top bar of whatever browser you're using. And what I typically do, if it was a new site I had never heard of, I'll type in that new site into another search and then type up reputation or reviews history.
Or BBB, if you can find out if they're on the Better Business Bureau. There's a number of ways you can tell if they're real, but there is a lot of fake websites out there, and there's a lot of fake companies, and Amazon's dealing with something right now where their supplements are being faked and sent from other countries. So if you're buying supplements, especially on Amazon, be sure to critique where it's coming from and whether it's real.
Yeah. No, that's another important thing too, is even if you're on the legitimate site, Amazon or eBay or otherwise, you should still be mindful of return policies and things like that on the system, especially if you're going with a used, pre-owned anything. And just make sure that it very clearly shows you pictures of all the different angles of the device you're looking at, so that you're not surprised when you get it. And then make sure you read the description very carefully as well, so that there's also no surprises.
Yes, and also beware of laptops and desktops that have no brand at all. That can be a dangerous thing as well. But realistically, the safest thing you can do is shop locally. It's better for your economy, and it certainly helps out everybody in your community when it's all said and done. But we get that there's a lot of good deals out there, but not all deals are what they're cracked up to be, and some of them are straight up fraudulent. So be careful when you're shopping out there for your loved ones. And welcome, Father.
Well, good morning, my son. Good morning, Auren.
And you are?
Huh?
No introduction.
Oh,
who are you?
I'm Dad. My name is Jay.
Never seen this man in my life.
I think you have.
I opened this place about 20 years ago. Let me put my microphone on. So first of all, I'd like to apologize. You both understand, I think, on some level.
You worked harder than any of us.
Yes.
I was here until 11:30 last night, and I've made a habit of that in recent times. I'm working on a server project. So this right here is stamped onto our actual product when we finally start selling them. We actually have sold some already. And it's a server that is basically going to be the heart of other businesses in the same way that it is for ours and a handful of other businesses around town. And it's been years in the making. And I'm at the final stages of finishing some of the technology so we can get it out there. And I am burning the candle at both ends, so that's why I'm late for the podcast.
All right, well, we appreciate you joining us. And again, if you have different subjects or any questions, we are on Facebook and YouTube. Just chime in the chat and we'll see it pop up and be able to help you out.
Well, the real reason I'm late for the podcast
Because breakfast was really good?
is that's cause being working till 11:30 doesn't make you late for a podcast.
Yeah.
But I run out of meat. You just have so many hours in a day, and you work all those hours. And I have 6 dogs at home, and they require a lot of me. And by the time I get up in the morning, I get done with the dogs, and I've got like an hour. It takes me 20 minutes to get here. I've got about an hour to just call my own, to have breakfast. And it wasn't even an hour. I think it was 45 minutes. Just to have breakfast and relax, and something that's not duty. That's really the critical piece there. Have some slice of time that's not duty.
That's important.
Yeah.
And with the holidays coming up, hopefully we all get a little bit of it aside from the stress of trying to get gifts for everybody and figure out what people would enjoy, as well as some getting some gifts for yourself. And I imagine that there's a lot of people that it's a combo of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we covered when you're shopping to just be careful about the sources of where you're shopping at. The benefits of shopping locally, of course, is that it also bolsters your local economy and helps out other people making a living and keeping the cycle going.
Yeah. No, and then furthermore, if you had a problem or a question with any piece of software on the computer that you got, you can bring it down to the shop. Whereas if you get it from eBay and you ask a question 2 months later, hey, I can't get this to work, they're not going to care.
Yeah, that's the inverse size. Is when you're buying secondhand from any place that isn't a refurbishing business that's local, that you're able to talk to the people, then you do take a risk of the warranty and things like that, and what hardware you're getting.
Speaking of buying computers, maybe this is a good time for us to just throw one of those videos up there.
Which one?
The ones you created yesterday.
Oh no, that's a commercial. That's this one.
Yeah, but that's still kind of interesting.
It's a Christmas thing, and you edited it, right?
No.
Well,
It's not been edited yet.
No, I haven't
We'll
been
throw
edited
it
yet.
up. I feel like we should throw it up later.
Yeah, that should
Stay
be
tuned.
That should be its own thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be spontaneous here.
Yeah,
and
but
they don't
it's
want
not edited,
they
and there's a
don't-
bunch of just snippets and bits. But we do have a little
if any of you
Christmas
want,
type commercial.
if any of you want to see these videos, just comment on it, and we'll know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll shut my mouth.
Otherwise, we'll post it over the weekend sometime after this.
All right.
Aside from that, the scams of not only the different websites where you can go purchase stuff online when you're out there shopping, around the holidays I tend to see a kick up in the amount of support fraud. So be aware, signing up for different accounts and getting emails saying you need to fix this, sign into this account. Again, we'll make the warning, never respond inside of the email to anything, clicking on links inside of the email. If it says something about your PayPal account, get out of your email, go to PayPal's website, log in, see if there's factually anything wrong with the account. Don't click on the link in the email because it can lead to you putting in your email and password to some other random company out there that's just mining for information.
If you get an email that says, congrats, you won $20,000, Merry Christmas, don't click on the link in the email. It's probably
Right.
not
And it's going to be. There'll probably be quite a few of the shipping issues.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, with all the gifts being shipped around, that's been a common one is UPS, FedEx, USPS, getting emails saying there's something wrong with delivering your package, and since you've ordered so many things, it gets you at a time where you think
They
it's
say
legit.
there's a problem with your UPS package, and you just ship something via UPS. You're ripe for the picking.
So be diligent and do the research. Also, look at who's sending the message. A lot of time they're bogus, just Gmail addresses. coming from these companies. That's an easier way to tell that it's coming from a fraud. Otherwise, the biggest thing is to just get out of the email and sign into your USPS account if you have one, or your FedEx account, and see your package is tracking, and do things that way.
Yeah, and if you don't have one, you can go, if like you said, if specifically it said your UPS package had a problem, you can go to ups.com and create an account, and you should be able to track and monitor things through there, or even reach out to customer support directly if you had any questions.
And if you see anything really weird and you're just questioning it and you don't know what to do about it, that's why we're here. You can feel free to give us a call, and we're happy to help you out with those sort of things. We, again, do remote access. If you have an internet connection, we can help take a look at things and make sure that it's safe for you.
So do we have any interesting customer stories that we can share?
Customer stories?
For like since the last time we were here and now? Just as to inject some spontaneity into this. I have a feeling sometimes we just sound too monotone, you know, going over the same thing. And it's important stuff.
I mean, there's a lot of stories in between now and the last time we did this, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't...
Can you share some, like, I know you were giving, for instance, there was some customer with an iPad that you would give me a bunch of brain damage. It wasn't giving it to me, but I was hearing your brain was cracking.
I mean, it's passwords.
What was up with that?
It's all about passwords. So if you're changing passwords, you're getting new devices this Christmas.
So
This
what
goes
happened
along
with this
it.
particular one?
This is ultimately, remembering your passwords is difficult for everybody. Write your passwords down. It'll save
All right,
you
but
so
wait,
much,
what was
so
this?
much trauma in the future. This was a customer who didn't know his password to his account. It was that simple.
So what happened? Take us through it a little bit.
I got an iPad in, and I assumed that he had the same Apple account on his iPad as he did his phone. He, in fact, had made a second account for the phone, and so by virtue, I wasn't able to reset the password. We found the phone number was connected to somebody else. We got a hold of that person, and they also didn't have any way to get back into the account. It required that iPad in order to get back into the account, and the iPad's locked. So because he didn't have the password, the iPad is useless.
Wow, now see, there's a punchline.
Yeah.
So his iPad is now you could use it as literally a paperweight.
It's useless. I'm sitting there going through any of the combinations of passwords that have been for different accounts that they have, but ultimately none of them have worked, and it's getting to the point where if I type in the wrong password a number of times more, it'll completely lock out. But otherwise, it makes a device that is as expensive as a newer iPad completely useless. There's nothing you can do with
And that's wild. I mean, that's literally the only instance in the hardware world that I know of. And I didn't even know this was coming, so this is what I like about the spontaneity.
It's a security thing with iPads and iPhones, because at one point, I don't know if it still is, they were considered the most stolen device in the world, aside from a lighter.
That makes sense.
Right, so
They got the high price tag.
So if they steal it, it becomes useless if they can't log into it.
So they made that security feature so that stealing it would be less beneficial, because most hardware you can factory reset it and just get around all of that stuff. But on the iPads, they link it to the account, so after you reset it, it says go ahead and sign in. It doesn't allow you to get
And
out.
there's no process. There's no process. I'm sorry. From Apple, where you can identify yourself with birth certificates and whatever they did. It's too expensive for them to go down that road.
I've seen some cases.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a way to reach out to them and prove anything.
Basically, it's prove I am me, and you know I'm the iCloud account holder.
But the way you'd prove that is by signing into your account. So they really don't have to do anything. You can prove it's you if you sign into your account.
But if I wanted you to prove you were you, right now, you'd give me a license, right?
Yeah.
And so you're giving me something physical. And now how do I know that license is not a perfect counterfeit?
Well, ultimately, I think that their standpoint on it is if it is you, you can log into your account and they don't have to do anything else.
Right.
And so that's their way to not have to deal with all the
I
dealing
get
with
it.
the customer side of things.
I get it, but that's a singular situation, but I do get it.
It's a super painful one.
Now, how about you? You got any, like the last week, customer situation? And I know you do a lot of on-sites as well.
I do, yeah. Well, I was going to briefly touch on the password and the Apple ID thing, because we had another customer that had a situation where I think he had one account in Apple that he just wanted to completely toss. He had a new Apple ID and he wanted to sign it into his brand new iMac. The problem is he had that iMac for a long time and it was already signed into that account. We didn't know the password to that account. And the phone number attached to it was his home phone number. So whenever we try to reset the password, it says, we sent a link or we sent a code to your home phone. And that's not going to do much because your landline phone doesn't have a screen that tells you what the code is. So we were stuck in this 30-day wait period.
And for anybody who's confused about that, at some point they did allow calling your phone and giving you a verbal code, and they've since gone away with that. But anybody who hasn't updated their account and they got a landline on it, they were just locked into this issue.
Now, what does this 30-day wait period do for you?
So I forget exactly. I think it was a matter of saying, we can't use this number. And then Apple provided us with the option to add his new mobile number, but we had to wait 30 days because it was giving notifications to
And that was
his
with an
account.
Apple?
Apple account. So
It
the
sounds like
reason it's a
Microsoft, that's why.
30-day wait period, and I've seen that with Microsoft
Yeah.
too. It's to prevent if it was a fraudulent action, you get 30 days to see, oh, somebody's trying to make this change to my account, and click, no, I don't trust this.
Yeah.
So it makes them wait a long time. We were able to get back into the account, though, so there was some positivity at the end of that. But sometimes, like you said, you can be locked out of the
As
device
it is right now,
permanently.
you actually, on my specific issue with this customer, is you sign in and you say, I forgot the password, and it only gives me the ability to use a verified device, a device that already has it logged in, which is only that iPad that I have that's
that
locked
sucks.
out.
Yeah.
And when I type in the phone number, it doesn't send me a text. It says, follow the instructions on your iPad. And there are no
Now, if
instructions.
you buy an Android device, conversely, if you forget your passwords and all that kind of stuff, you can reset it to factory. And
Not on all of them.
Right.
So Samsung has security features. If you have a Samsung account on a Samsung device, then there is a lockdown that they're applying on those devices.
making it useless and impossible to break.
It makes it so you have to type in your account password for that account.
But if you lose that,
I mean,
if you don't have what you
in
need,
this-
whatever it
in
may
this-
be.
In this specific issue with the iPad, it's not giving me any other options. I believe on the Samsung account, it has the multi-factor authentication, a phone, and an email that you can reset it with. So it seems to be easier to reset your password,
Yeah.
whereas the Apple security seems a little bit tighter on you can set it to just allow access with devices you've already had signed into
But
that
on the
account.
Samsung, if you no longer have that multi-factor authentication, you've lost that email, you've lost that phone number, you move to a different address, you move to a different planet,
You could jailbreak it, which is a
you can
Android-
get in somehow, some way.
somehow, some way. It's,
Okay.
it's not.
May not be
it's
easy,
not
but Apple is
basic
impossible.
stuff. Yes, it's
Yeah.
not basic stuff. But for most of the Android tablets, he is correct. The factory reset it usually does the job. Google's cracked down a little bit and making it so you have to sign into the Gmail address that was last in it. But
Yep.
again, Gmail tends to be a little bit easier to reset your password if you have a phone number or a secondary email address attached to it.
Yeah. Always add, if you can, a recovery option to your account, because I've seen too many times a customer comes in, hey, I don't know my email password. It's Gmail. I click the little forgot password button. It says, you're out of luck. And that's it.
Yeah, if you have no secondary information on ways to reach out to you, then it can lock you out fairly quickly. Email addresses are free. Gmail, Yahoo, MSN, there's a lot of different companies that offer free email. And so you can easily get a secondary email address and just make them both the recovery for each other. So if you get locked out of one, you can get into the other and vice versa. And the cell phone always makes it a little bit easier.
All right, so what do you got?
What do I got? Man, I mean, so many of my
Come on, give us
on-sites are printer issues.
Give us an example, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I know you guys had your schedule of things, but I just want to try to create some spontaneity. Give us a story. People like stories.
The thing about my stories is a lot of them are pretty straightforward when it comes to the printer issues in the ways of, I can't get it to work anymore. The Wi-Fi's just not connecting. And a lot of times, it's either they got a new router, or they changed their Wi-Fi password, or even the printer just decided to let go of the password. I see that a lot too. So when I get to the house, a lot of times there'll be a blinking Wi-Fi light on their printer. It could be HP, Brother, Canon, Epson, all sorts of different types out there.
Wait a second. Now,
I don't have a particular story based on anything in my head right now. No.
No stories.
Yeah, what's your story? What do you got?
No.
I'll give you a story. You want a story?
Of the last week,
I mean, because we deal with customers on a regular basis. Now, you guys are on the front lines typically. Now, I did have one. I did have one where a client called, and it's interesting because all of these things are coming back to credentials. So, customer calls, not going to tell you who it is because they're local, right? And we wouldn't do that anyway. But they say that they can't get into their server from one of their computers. And you'll know who you are. Can't get into their servers from one of their computers. And they've got multiple computers. It's a business. They have a server in the center, and they access it for files and folders, or QuickBooks actually was the main thing in this case. This one system can't get it, and they don't know the password to the server. It hits them up for a password, and servers have something built into them in most cases where after a period of time, the trust relationship that's established with a legit login, you know, when you log in with a username and password, it remembers it, and it remembers it for a long time because it doesn't want to have to keep asking you every time that you share folders or anything else. But they're pre-programmed typically after 6 months or a year, whatever it is, to break that trust relationship and out of the blue ask you for a username and password. Right? It's time for you to prove you're supposed to be doing this once again. And this one system, it did exactly that, and nobody knows what the credentials are. So that system can no longer use QuickBooks because the QuickBooks file is hosted on the server. So I get the call, and it turns out that the server is under a desk with no monitor, no keyboard. It's running. It's doing what it's supposed to do day after day, month after month. But it's completely forgotten about. And the IT person who used to work there or used to work with them, they're gone. They don't remember what the credentials are. So nobody knows what the password is to the server that sits at the center of their business. And I've seen it before. So it's going to require a lot of hoops to try to crack that password.
And this goes along with credentials. It's just a matter of time where the trust relationship with you and your password is gone.
It's all related to credentials, and that was our situation. We're not through that yet. I'm having them try a few things to see if we can get some preliminary information. What version of service software are they using, so we can determine how we might be able to crack that password. If we can crack that password, because worst case scenario, now, unlike an Apple iPad, it doesn't say you can no longer use your server anymore. I'm sorry, you're done.
So right? the benefit of laptops and desktops, aside from a BIOS password, and a BIOS password is basically a password before it loads any software, most of the time, everything's held on a device like a hard drive inside the computer that you can remove and put in a new hard drive, so a new brain in the computer.
Well, in this case,
and you can make it like a new system.
We would use the same system. We could even use the same hard drive, but we'd have to get the data off of it and then reformat, reinstall the Windows Server environment, and then put their data back on. But that costs, by the time they're done with this, when it comes to a server, you could have $800 in labor.
But if it's holding all your customer information and everything else that's crucial to running the business, the money becomes not the main problem. The main problem is that you're locked out of your entire system of functioning.
And the main reason, this is the biggest reason all three of us have seen, and I've seen over my decades in this business, is credentials. You have to, there's no excuse for, I don't have it for whatever.
Oh, there's tons of excuses. Let's not even get started.
It's the business owner's responsibility to put something in place that makes it easy for the managers and the employees to know what the passwords are to these critical pieces of the puzzle. And we use a program called LastPass here. There are other programs out there. We're going to be including one with the new server that we put out there, which is made by a company called Bitwarden, and their open source variants called Vault Warden. But you choose your poison. but you're going to need a password manager to navigate all this in today's world.
And I know a lot of you are probably staring at a notebook that's falling apart with scribbles and scratches all over it, with passwords all through it. That is also a fine strategy if you just dictate your writing to say the date that it was changed. Because I have a lot of customers who come in here with these old notebooks, and there's a million passwords for the same account. None of them are labeled, and that leaves me with the job of having to go through typing out the ones that I have.
How about if you just say latest?
Yeah, they all say latest.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like new, latest.
Latest.
Going with a password manager, though, I mean, your dog can't eat your passwords, at least. So
No.
that is an option.
Right.
That would be a valid excuse.
And if your house burns down.
Yes, the physical has its downsides, but the upside is if you're locked out of your computer, your passwords are still accessible. And so the password to get into your computer could be physically written down, and that might help you get into your machine to get all the other saved passwords.
Mm-hmm.
So the physical still holds its spot.
Oh, I actually have an interesting one pertaining to credentials that happened somewhat recently.
Here we go.
So,
All right.
a customer came in, and the computer was not booting.
What was the name?
I'm not telling.
Yes.
I can't tell you.
God.
It has to do with passwords. Nice try. But yeah, customer came in. It's like it won't boot, and my passwords are in here. So when I was asking him about different questions of things we might need to set up, because he also brought in a new computer, he didn't know how to answer it or what passwords, because the passwords were in the computer that had the no boot issue. So the first step was getting the hard drive out of there and seeing if it could be read. Luckily, it could be. The second issue was the passwords specifically live inside of Outlook notes. So with the hard drive having 2 bad marks on it in a test, I didn't know how this would work, if it would be a success to do the full data migration, including programs. If after everything was said and done, I'd open up Outlook and it would just be empty or ask me for credentials, and the notes would be gone. So luckily, in this particular use case, the first data migration I went through, all of the programs were corrupted. I double click on a program and it just says, hey, this doesn't exist. So that wasn't a good start. But luckily, I was able to undo the changes, and I tried it one more time, and it worked.
Oh,
Opening
gosh.
up Outlook, I went to the notes area because it did have all of his old emails on the side there, even though it was still prompting me for the Microsoft login, and his notes had all of his passwords. So I exported them for him.
Happy ending anyway.
Yes, but that could be a situation where if you keep your passwords in a location that might not be typical, you have to be careful of that too, because in some situations, like if your computer goes down, and for some reason if you can't restore that particular application, you might be out of luck of all of your passwords.
Yeah, and I don't normally advise people storing like all of their passwords in an Excel spreadsheet on their desktop labeled passwords.
No, yeah.
So what I would normally recommend is if you could put it on a flash drive, then it's external from the computer. It does come with the security risk of you need to make sure you know where that flash drive is at all times. But aside from that, if someone were able to gain access to your computer, they don't have your whole world of credentials as well. And that's where the password managers put a password in front of that. Like LastPass, it has one password to get in to access them all. But that one password protects you from somebody sitting down at your computer and just accessing all of it.
And if you put them on a flash drive, there are programs out there, and I don't have any to give you off the top of my head, that password protect your flash drive. So
you
that
can do that with files, you can do that with compressed files, and you can encrypt them as well.
Yes.
And encryption
so
just
if somebody
makes
picks it up, they don't just have all your stuff.
Right, they can't read it unless they type in, again, a password, but it's at least one password that protects that data from it.
And I'd like to say something in response to what she was talking about, where she was able to remove the hard drive from the computer. You know, and most computers have a drive inside of it. Hopefully you didn't buy a computer that it's soldered inside of it, because if you did that, she wouldn't be able to do what she did for this other customer. But if you have hard drives in your machines and you throw your machines away in traditional ways, thinking you're done with it, it's too old, I don't need it anymore, it gets recycled. Next thing you know, it's in some faraway country in a heap of electronics where people are filtering the good from the bad. And in many cases, they're taking these drives, they're plugging them in, and they're scanning them for whatever the value that might be there. And that, you know, and I can assure you one of the key terms that one would search for is the word password.
Yeah.
And if you've got your password stuck on a text file on a desktop on a machine that you no longer use, then that's the type of stuff that gets compromised.
Yeah, data vulnerability. So it does come down to where you save your data and how you treat that saved data. And when you're going to get rid of stuff, which again, around the holidays, a lot of people are getting rid of things. We do e-waste down here. There's lots of places that do e-waste, but we take data very seriously. All hard drives that come through these doors that are going to e-waste get hit with a hammer, literal, physical, destroyed before it goes to the e-waste center.
Yeah.
Yep.
If something is reusable, like a solid state drive, we have the ability to erase it and write over it. And basically what that means is when you erase something on a hard drive, most people don't know this, it doesn't actually delete it. It just tells the computer that that is open available space that can be rewritten over. But until you rewrite data over top of what it says is not there, you can plug it into recovery software and you can get it back. So rewriting over the drive makes it so if somebody plugs it in, there's no way they can get the data. So that's the only case of reusing stuff.
There is a bootable media that you can find on the internet and download that will typically start with something called DoD, which stands for Department of Defense, reformat of your hard drive. And you find that type of a program, and what's that?
Boot Nuke is the one we used for a long time. Linux has an erase version that I've actually tested out. If you hit the switch for erase in Ubuntu, I've run that through data recovery software, and I can't get anything out of it.
So that kind of media you boot to the external media. So you don't just run it as a program, you've got to boot to it, and then when you do, it gives you the options to wipe out the drive, and it'll put zeros, it'll actually fill your drive up with zeros, which makes it impossible because it's already been written. It's completely written over, just nothing that's of any use.
But again, if you have any concerns about that and you don't want to deal with the tech side of it, we're down here Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 5, 11 to 4 on Saturday, and we can also help take care of that for you if you're in the area.
For sure, yeah. And another thing too is if you let the wrong person into your computer for remote support, they can use the little search feature on the bottom of your computer or the top right if you're on an Apple machine and type in passwords.
Yeah, and a lot of the times they can run a program that shows you a black screen while they're doing whatever they're doing in the background. So I'd say this connects to Apple accounts specifically with saving credentials. A lot of people save all of their passwords to their Apple account. This is when it becomes the most important to have dual-factor authentication and have some sort of security on your Apple account, because I had an issue just the last couple of weeks with someone with a cell phone Apple account with all of their stuff saved into it, and they responded to an email and gave the credentials to the Apple account, and whoever got into the account then had access to every password they needed.
You all right over there?
Nope.
Inhaled some coffee. Well, it is 11 o'clock. You go check on her to make sure she's all right.
Make sure she's not dying over here. Oh my gosh. You put it down your lungs?
No. Nope, I've just been getting this on occasion.
All right. Well, it's coming up on time to be open, so I think we're going to be cutting this one right now.
All right.
I appreciate you all joining us. She is alive. Everything's fine over there.
I was going to do that joke where I offer her a cigarette.
No.
That's looking too serious for that.
All right. But I appreciate you taking the time, and we will see you on Tuesday.
All right. Thanks for watching.